Tell me a little bit about how your campus experiences or your student experiences were influenced by the times then in the early 50s. I guess it was the late 40s and the early 50s,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I was a chemistry major. Decided to major in chemistry when I was in high school. And as a result of that, I became acquainted with the professors of chemistry, of course. Dr. Stevens was chairman of deacons at the First Baptist Church in Waco. And my principal advisor was Dr. Virgil Tweedy. He was an organic chemist, and I was sort of steered in the direction of doing research in organic chemistry. And I got a job in the summertime at Phillips Petroleum Company. My mother had married my stepfather, and he was with city service, and the two of them were transferred to Bartlesville, Oklahoma. And Bartlesville, Oklahoma was a place where my mother was the Sunday school superintendent, First Baptist Church, and the girl that I was to marry had a father who was my Sunday school teacher there. And he tried to get me or Argye to date with me, and my mother tried to get me to date with Argye. And so we fell in love as a result of the combined efforts of the parents, which of course delayed things considerably. But eventually, of course, we came to love each other as a result of our experiences together in the summertime with the youth revival that was held at the First Baptist Church of Bartlesville. And the youth revival at that time involved only a single Baylor graduate who was a friend of a brother of one of the preachers that have been in the Fort Worth Youth Revival. So as a result of all of this, I really loved the thoughts of coming to Baylor. And then when I actually got there, I had the same experiences with the professors and the people that I got to know in the classroom. The whole setup made me love Baylor.
Tell me about your wife, Argye.
Argye is, as I told you, a biostatistician. She served until the late 90s as the chief of biostatistics at Scott and White, which was the A&M medical school campus. She, since our retirement, has developed a type of dementia which has essentially removed her executive ability. But I see her every morning. We have breakfast together every morning, and I feed her. She still is loving and kind and the greatest woman in the world, although she no longer has the ability to carry out the functions of the executive functions of the brain because the frontal cortex has been essentially destroyed by whatever disease process has gone on.
What did you two have in common?
What did we have in common? We had our children in common. And we also had a love for freedom of thought, a love for research, a love for education. I think if it hadn't been for Argye, I would never have returned to Baylor. But she realized the relationship that I had with the university as a result of my experience as a student, and she wanted me to continue to have that relationship for her whole thinking life.
How did the two of you complement each other in terms of your strengths and your weaknesses?
Well, I think biostatistics is an area which influences research in every direction. And we publish papers together. And in our research, many of the times I would get a paper sent back to me to do statistical manipulations which I didn't understand, didn't know. And of course Argye did. And she would be able to do them. And so we co-authored our papers together in the last several years.
I understand that when the Dallas Morning News called you to tell you that David had won a Rockefeller grant.
Well, they didn't tell me that David had won it. They said, congratulations on your son's winning the MacArthur Award. And I said, which one? And they said, well, there's only one MacArthur Award that's given. Only one type. And I said, no, I mean which son? Because I really didn't know whether it was David or Danny. And they said, well, we're talking about David. And first that I ever heard about MacArthur Award was that David had asked me if I knew anything about it. And I said, no, I've heard it. I've heard about it. But he said, I think that Danny really will be able to get that award because his whole life is dedicated toward artificial intelligence, and he probably ought to get that award. But it was David that said that Danny should get it, and it was David that got the award.
And your daughter is also
She's a professor at Johns Hopkins, a professor of neurology. She's in charge of the residence education training program.
What did you and your wife do you think, as you look back to develop such accomplished children? Was there any approach you took that got everybody to this point?
Well, I think we mostly just loved each other. And of course we tried to influence them to choose professions that would be lifelong satisfactions to them. And the fact that they all ended up in research or doing teaching, I think was part of the way they were brought up. I have no idea why they did it so well. They exceeded their parents, though.